Hello everybody, in this video today I'm giving you 10 self-care tips for the caregiver in order to prevent burnout. So if you're in a role where you are taking care of your elderly parent right now, or perhaps you have a child with a disability, or if your child with a disability is an adult and is fairly independent but still needs your help, stay tuned to this video because I'm going to share with you the 10 tips I came up with to help prevent burnout. So my name is Dawn Dickinson and the channel is Reflections and Insights for Life Over 55. Right now my mother is in an assisted living facility. Actually it's a memory care facility, an advanced assisted living facility because she has advanced dementia. She's considered a hospice patient. Right now I'll have to say the place that she is at, called Legacy House in Avondale, Arizona, does a very good job providing her needs to take care of her physical needs, her mental needs, providing stimulation, but there's still a lot of caregiving that is involved between me and my siblings. I also have an adult son who has high functioning autism, so even though he is pretty independent for a person with autism, he does need a lot of care. So sometimes dealing with one or the other, both of them combined, can be very exhausting, both emotionally and physically. And so I've gotten together with a couple of the friends in my support group and we've come up with this list of the 10 tips to help you avoid caregiver burnout. So number one, absolutely most important, is that your own health comes first. So you cannot neglect your own health in order to take care of your mom or your dad or your child or your brother or sister. You need to make sure that your health is first, and so that you have the energy to take care of the other people in your life that depend on you. So in order to do this, I recommend doing three things. One is to make sure you are having a healthy diet. Diet is so important, and I know in my case, when I get stressed, I tend to overeat. I tend to crave stuff with sugar in it, so it's important that you fight those cravings and stay eating a healthy diet, which would just consist of, healthy foods that are not with a bunch of added sugar and do not have a lot of ultra processing. So eat healthy foods and maintain some type of exercise schedule. So you don't have to exercise like you did back when we were young, but if you could do some low-key exercise like taking a walk every day, or maybe doing squats, some type of light weight training, or maybe some type of pool aerobics or swimming, very good light impact exercise to put into your routine so that you stay healthy. And then the last thing is, if you have any health issues at all, like diabetes or heart disease or anything like that, make sure you follow up and take care of yourself and do what the doctor is recommending you do in order for you to stay physically healthy, because if you're sick, you're not going to be able to take care of anybody else in your life. So number two is get enough sleep. Very important to sleep, especially as we age. There are a couple of things that happen to us as we age when it comes to sleep. Sometimes we have a hard time falling asleep, sometimes a hard time staying asleep. So you got the two things to worry about: the quantity and the quality of your sleep. So just make sure you go to bed early enough. And if you have a problem where you're waking up at 3 in the morning and not able to fall asleep for hours, you might want to look for some type of a dietary supplement to take before you go to sleep, some type of maybe a melatonin or some type of a mix that would help you stay asleep and fall asleep if you're having those types of issues. Okay, number three is to look for emotional support. I can't tell you how important it is to have some type of emotional support. I'm having a lot easier time dealing with my mother's failing health than I did when my child was young and autistic, because I felt like I was the only one I knew with an autistic child, and that was very draining. So when your parents are ailing, if you need a therapist, go online and search for therapists, because sometimes just talking it through with a professional, they can give you some tips on how to cope with it. Another thing is, if you have emotional support from your friends or your siblings. I know I count on my sister a lot. There are a couple things that happened. I just want to give you an example that I really needed this emotional support. So the last time my mother was in the hospital, my daughter and I went to see her, and my daughter has been trying to ask questions so she can kind of maybe make a diary after my mother passes on these stories. So she asked, "Oh, Grandma, tell me a story about when Mom was a baby." And my mother looks at her and she goes, "Well, and then she looks at me, "You were annoying. Babies need so much effort and work, and I just wasn't prepared for it. You were a pain in the neck, And I'm like, oh, that's going to be a last memory of my mom telling me I was annoying when I was a baby, you know. So like my daughter didn't get it, you know, because she was like 20. But for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I had to call my sister and you know what mom said about me. And you know what? You could say it was the disease talking, because that is something like an older person with dementia might come up with. But my mother had said things in the past that kind of alluded to the fact that she did feel that way. So it was definitely a little bit hurtful for me to see that. And my mother, or hear that I should say, my mother didn't think anything of it, of course, because she's in the advanced dementia stage. So whatever they think comes out of their mouth, there's no filter. So again, to have some kind of emotional support when stuff like that comes flying at you for your parent is very good. The other thing that happens that I need emotional support for is when I go to see my mother, she now thinks my father is still alive. You know, my dad has been dead 19 years, and when I go there, she's, where's Jack? Why hasn't he been in to see me? And we have to make up some lie that he is working late, because every time we tell her, she doesn't know he's dead and she starts crying, you know. So even when we say she's working late, when she asks where my father is, I kind of relive what it was like when he first died, you know. So then I go in my car and I cry for 15, 20 minutes before I can drive home because I'm so shaken up. So it's important, like for me, it's easy. I just call my sister, like, wouldn't believe what mom said this time. And we both cry back and forth and we have that emotional support. But if you don't have a sibling, it's very important that you get some kind of support. So looking for a support group, maybe going to church, talking to an old friend, just kind of like to walk through the emotions that you're feeling, because it's extremely draining. Another thing you could do is you could just look online for videos like this, because sometimes some person like me just blathering away about experiences. I mean, that's kind of why I do these videos, right? Because if you hear, oh, that happened to me too, then you don't feel as bad, because sometimes you think I'm the only one that this happened to. Okay, number 4 is to set boundaries. I know it's very easy when you're dealing with, say, an elderly parent that lives close, and they might call you, get over here right now, I need help with blah, you know, or I need you to do this right now. It's harder when you've got a child. Like when my son was young and autistic, you know, I had to at any second be prepared to jump up and drop everything. So when you're dealing with children, again, it's hard, but you should try to set boundaries. So if it's an adult parent, say uncle, whatever, with a disease that you're caring for, helpful to just say, okay, I'm going to batch all the requests into a 2-hour time frame. I'm going to be there between 3 and 5, and I'm going to deal with everything they've asked me for the day, rather than you run over there 50 times. And set boundaries. If you can't be jumping up every 10 minutes to go wait on your loved one, just tell them, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. So setting boundaries is very important, and if you could divide the work up with your siblings, that's even better. So number 5, this is one of the most important things, is to develop some type of method for stress reduction. So let me tell you what seems to work for me. I have a journal that I write in every day. Sometimes I write in stories that happen. Oh, you won't believe what mom did today. Or making a list of things I'm grateful for. So like, oh, I'm grateful I got to see my kids this weekend, and I'm grateful that I have a nice house to live in. So making a list every day, like for a gratitude journal, that's a very good thing too. Very helpful. I like to do that once a day. The other thing is to get some type of a meditation system going, where maybe, I mean, it's best if you do it every day. I know that I don't do it every day. Come up with some meditation that you like to do to kind of quiet the mind, and maybe visualize on what you want to happen for the day. To me, I find that very helpful. And another thing is maybe listening to music. I know, remember back when we were teenagers, that's all we wanted to do is play the radio, your favorite song. And then, I don't know why, as you get older, you'll replace your favorite music with your favorite podcast, which is fine. But sometimes just saying, I'm going to go an hour a day and I'm going to watch music videos, or I'm going to listen to my favorite record or something like that. Music can also be very therapeutic. So whatever it is you pick, I think finding some type of a stress reduction mechanism is very important for caregivers. Okay, number 6 is very important to learn to delegate. So you can't do all of it yourself, and it's especially difficult when it's just you. but you're going to have to find some way to delegate some of the tasks. So there are organizations out there that if you're dealing with the elderly, there's stuff like Visiting Angels. They come in and they will visit your loved one. Hospice of the Valley. Now, my mother is in a memory care facility, but yet she gets visits from Hospice of the Valley almost every day, and they have been amazing. Now, when my son was very young, he qualified for respite care. So you could have a social worker come over maybe 2 hours a week and watch the kids so you can get some stuff done. The problem was, it was very difficult to get a provider, but if you have a disabled child, definitely look into see if you can qualify for any type of a respite care, because that can be very helpful. The other thing to delegate is some of the basic work like housekeeping and landscaping. If you can have, if your mother or father, say, is still in their own home, maybe instead of you helping with that, you can hire someone that, and also for yourself. You know, it's hard to take care of everybody and keep your house clean. I know I can't. I cannot keep my house clean. But it's great to have someone take that horrendous chore and give you a break. Okay, number 7, it's very important for you to have realistic expectations. Now, I know this was very difficult for me 2 times. One was when my mother started to get the dementia and started to forget things and get cranky. I used to think, oh, we need to take her to a doctor that can return her to her normal self. Well, at some point, you have to understand that your parent is not going to return to their normal self. And at some point, it's going to be like, this is how I feel with my mother, and I feel bad saying this, but she is not in there anymore. If you just realize, and it's hard when you get to that point that your mother is not coming back or your father is not coming back. It's easier than you trying to change something that you can't. Trying to make a doctor bring your parent back to where they were. That's very difficult. The other thing is if you have a disabled child. For me, this was super hard when he was young. We were like, oh, if I just work hard enough on him, he'll be able to graduate college, or he'll be able to get this kind of job, or he'll be able. So comparing your disabled child to the peers that are doing stuff and graduating high school on time, or getting jobs, driving their cars. Now, I have to say my disabled son is able to get a job and drive a car, but not all of the kids can. So just being realistic, like you're not going to force your child to be like he didn't have the disability. And that can be crushing as a parent. I know you're giving up your dreams. If you need to cry over that, I know I cried plenty of times trying to get to the point where I'm accepting the fact that my child has this disability and it's not going to go away, and all the time that we spent forcing him to study and forcing him to go to the school and forcing them is not going to change the outcome. So number 8 is it's very important to maintain your own life. Now, I see people that do this. In fact, I see people that get on their high horse and they chastise you for putting your mother or your father in an assisted living facility or in a memory care facility. There are professional people that are able to take care of your parents. So if you're thinking, I'll just quit my job and take care of my mother, that can be very dangerous, not only for your own mental state, but say you quit your job or your career and you take care of your mother and she ends up going for 5 years and you're now out of your workforce, and then she passes away and now your career is over. Like if you say, I worked in IT for years, and when I left IT to take care of my son when he was very young and then tried to go back after 15 years, forget it. Like I was completely obsolete. So you can be really messing with your own future if you're going to be all noble and a martyr and quit your job to take care of your parent. Don't think you have to do that. The other thing that you don't have to do is give up your hobbies or your friends or your activities to stay home and make sure your parents are okay. It's really important that you maintain that life that you had before of, calling your friends or doing things with your friends, participating in activities that you like. Because if you give all that up at the end, you're going to be bitter, you're going to be depressed, and it's going to be very difficult for you to come back, especially if you do something very sacrificing like give up career that you like in order to take care of your parent. Now, if you hated your career, then maybe it's a great time to sit back and do something different, but be very careful. Make sure you maintain your life so that you can cope with this type of a situation. Number 9 is to take breaks. Don't feel like you're being lazy if you're like, I need to just chill out on the couch for 2 hours because I've been running all day, or don't feel bad if you're like, I want to take a weekend and go out of town. It's very important to take breaks, to give your mind a break, to give your physical body a break so that you can continue to give the care for the people who need you. And finally, it's important that you celebrate small wins when you have it. Say, oh, it's Friday and the nursing home hasn't called me to complain all week. Celebrate something like that. Or, oh, my son actually talked on the phone with a friend today. You know, that's a huge thing if you've got a child with autism. So whenever you see a breakthrough or a milestone or something that you need to celebrate, it's important to take note and to celebrate that accomplishment, because if you're only dealing with the negative, it can be very discouraged mentally, and you can certainly get burnout when you do that. So that's it. I hope you found this video helpful. My name is Dawn Dickinson, the channel Reflections and Insights for Life Over 55. I tried to give lifestyle tips for us baby boomers. So if you have any idea on topics you'd like to hear, go ahead and put that down in the comments. I put videos out every single week, so if you like the video, please consider subscribing so that you can come back here next week when I post a brand new video, and I hope that I can see you then.